The deep space communications array hummed with its usual symphony of stellar interference and distant chatter when the transmission arrived. Zara Nightfall barely glanced up from her monitoring station aboard Beacon Station 7, one of humanity's furthest outposts in the Centauri sector. After 3 years of tracking routine cargo shipments and diplomatic channels, she'd grown accustomed to the endless stream of mundane communications that flowed through the void. But this signal was different. It cut through the background noise, like a knife through silk, clear, desperate, and utterly heartbreaking. The voice belonged to a woman, elderly by the sound of it, her words punctuated by labored breathing, and the distant hum of failing life support systems. To anyone listening, my name is Dr. Elena Vasquez, chief botanist aboard the research vessel Persephone. Our engines failed 6 days ago near the Helix Nebula. Life support is failing. A pause, filled with the crackling of a dying transmission. I know no one will reach us in time, but I need someone to know. I need someone to understand. Zara's fingers flew across her console, trying to boost the signal strength. Round her, the communications bay continued its quiet routine. Her colleague at the next station, Lieutenant Mills, was absorbed in coordinating supply runs. The night shift supervisor, Commander Torres, was making his rounds on the upper level. None of them seemed to notice the urgency in the woman's voice. The coordinates I'm transmitting, they're not random. Follow them past the Veil Nebula, beyond the charted systems. There are gardens there, impossible gardens that shouldn't exist. Worlds connected by streams of light, tended by something ancient and beautiful. I saw them in my dreams, clearer each night as we drifted toward death. They're real. They're waiting. Zara's heart pounded as she quickly began recording the transmission, her training warring with something deeper, an instinct that whispered this was important. Perhaps the most important thing she'd ever heard. The coordinates are 847.23 by 156.88 by 990.14 relative to galactic standard. But that's not what matters. What matters is belief. What matters is understanding that some boundaries exist to be crossed, some walls to be broken down. The gardens, they're not just a place, they're a promise, a sanctuary for those who've lost everything. Dr. Vasquez's voice grew weaker, more distant. I can see them now, even with my eyes closed. Silver trees that sing in harmonies no human throat could produce. Lakes that reflect not the sky above, but the dreams of those who gaze into them. And the gardener. Oh, the gardener is so beautiful. Like starlight given form, like hope made manifest. The transmission began to break up, filled with static and the electronic whine of failing equipment. But Zara caught the woman's final words clearly. Tell them I wasn't mad. Tell them the gardens are real. Tell them love doesn't end with death, it just finds new soil in which to grow. Then silence, the kind of absolute quiet that follows the extinguishing of a life. Zara sat frozen for a moment, staring at the console's readouts. The transmission had lasted exactly for minutes and 37 seconds. The coordinates Dr. Vasquez had provided showed a location deep in uncharted space, beyond the established shipping lanes and exploration zones. According to the Stellar Cartography database, there was nothing there, just empty void between distant star systems. Nightfall. What's that expression for? Captain Marcus Stone's gruff voice made her jump. The station commander had approached. While she was lost in thought, his weathered face creased with concern. You look like you've seen a ghost. I might have, sir. Zara replayed the recording, watching Stone's expression shift from skeptical amusement to genuine interest. As Dr. Vasquez's voice filled the communications bay, when it ended, Stone was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he shook his head. Space. Madness. Poor woman was probably hallucinating from oxygen deprivation. Happens more often than you'd think on failed deep space missions. But sir, the coordinates show empty space. I can already see the nav data on your screen. Lieutenant, there's nothing out there but vacuum and cosmic dust. Stone's voice softened slightly. Look, I understand this affects you, listening to someone's final moments. It never gets easier. But we can't chase every desperate fantasy transmitted by dying explorers. We'd never accomplish anything else. Zara wanted to argue, but she recognized the finality in her commander's tone. Stone was a good man. But he was also practical to a fault. The Alliance didn't fund deep space stations to pursue romantic notions about hidden gardens in the void. After Stone left, Zara found herself unable to concentrate on her regular duties. The coordinates burned in her mind: 847.23 by 156.88 by 990.14. She pulled up the long-range sensor data for that region, finding exactly what Stone had predicted: empty space, unmarked by any stellar phenomena or signs of inhabitable worlds. Yet, something nagged at her. Dr. Vasquez had sounded so certain, so specific. The way she described the gardens, it wasn't the rambling of a dying mind. It was the testimony of someone who had witnessed something extraordinary. As her shift neared its end, Zara made a decision that would change everything. She quietly copied the transmission and all related data to her personal storage drive. Whatever Captain Stone believed, she owed it to Dr. Vasquez to at least investigate further. Her friend Jenna Cross found her in the station's small cafe an hour later, still staring at the data pad containing the mysterious coordinates. "You've got that look again," Jenna said, sliding into the seat across from her. They'd known each other since academy training, and Jenna could read Zara's moods better than anyone. "The same expression you had when you insisted there was a pattern in those supposedly random asteroid movements last year. And I was right about that," Zara pointed out. "Those asteroids were being moved by an undiscovered gravitic anomaly." "True. So what's caught your attention this time?" Zara hesitated, then activated the recording. As Dr. Vasquez's voice filled the small space between them, she watched Jenna's expression mirror the journey her own had taken from skepticism to curiosity, to something approaching wonder. "The gardens beyond the void," Jenna murmured when it ended. "It sounds like something out of an ancient fairy tale, or like something real that we've just never bothered to look for," Zara countered. "Jenna, what if she was telling the truth? What if there really is something out there?" Jenna was quiet for a moment, then leaned forward. What are you thinking of doing?" "I'm thinking," Zara said slowly, "that Dr. Elena Vasquez deserves to have her last words taken seriously. I'm thinking that maybe it's time someone proved the gardens are real." 3 weeks after Dr. Vasquez's transmission, Zara had made little progress decoding what she'd begun calling the garden mystery. Her regular duties aboard Beacon Station 7 left limited time for personal research, and the coordinates continued to show nothing but empty space on every scan she could discreetly perform. She was beginning to wonder if Captain Stone had been right about space madness when the solution walked into her communications bay. Kai Volkov arrived on the monthly supply transport, carrying orders that designated him as the station's new xenolinguistics specialist. Tall and lean with prematurely silver hair that contrasted sharply with his young face, he moved with the quiet confidence of someone accustomed to solving impossible puzzles. His personnel file listed an impressive array of credentials: fluent in 17 alien languages, expert in ancient human dialects, and holder of advanced degrees in both cryptography and theoretical archaeology. What the file didn't mention was the way his dark green eyes seemed to look right through superficial explanations to find hidden truths underneath. "Lieutenant Nightfall." He approached her station during the evening shift, when the communications bay was mostly empty. "I'm Kai Volkov, the new linguist. I understand you've been trying to decode something unusual." Zara looked up sharply. "I haven't mentioned any decoding projects to anyone except Jenna Cross. She thought I might be able to help." Kai's smile was gentle, almost conspiratorial. "She showed me the transmission. Fascinating linguistic patterns, actually." Dr. Vasquez wasn't just describing what she saw, she was translating it. Translating? Zara minimized her current work and turned to face him fully. "From what? That's what I'd like to find out." He gestured toward the spare chair beside her console. "Over the next 2 hours. Kai demonstrated why the Alliance considered him one of their most valuable specialists. He broke down Dr. Vasquez's final transmission word by word, identifying subtle grammatical structures that suggested she was rendering concepts from another language into human speech. "Here," he said, highlighting a section of the audio transcript, "when she says silver trees that sing in harmonies, the stress patterns are all wrong for natural English. She's trying to express something that doesn't have a direct translation. And this phrase, like starlight given form, that's not metaphorical language. That's someone attempting literal description of something she lacks proper vocabulary for. Zara felt excitement building in her chest. So you think she really saw something? I think Dr. Elena Vasquez encountered something that challenged every assumption she had about reality, and she died trying to share that discovery with humanity. Kai's expression grew serious. The question is, what do we do about it? Their answer came sooner than expected. The next morning, Admiral Victoria Hayes arrived aboard the heavy cruiser Meridian, her unscheduled visit sending ripples of speculation throughout the station. Hayes was a legend in the Alliance fleet, the woman who'd negotiated first contact with 3 different alien species and established the protocols that kept humanity's expansion peaceful rather than conquest-driven. She was also Jenna Cross's mentor, which explained how their small mystery had reached such high-level attention. Lieutenant Nightfall, Specialist Volkov. Admiral Hayes's office aboard the Meridian was sparse but elegant, decorated only with holographic displays of various alien worlds. Ms. Cross has briefed me on your analysis of the Vasquez transmission. I have to admit, it's intriguing. Zara and Kai exchanged glances. They'd spent the previous evening refining their translation theories, building a compelling case that Dr. Vasquez had somehow made contact with an unknown intelligence before her death. Admiral, Zara began carefully, we believe the transmission contains encoded information, not intentionally coded, but linguistically filtered through concepts Dr. Vasquez couldn't fully comprehend. Hayes leaned back in her chair, and the coordinates she provided show empty space because we're looking for the wrong kind of signature. Kai interjected smoothly, if our analysis is correct, these gardens exist in a state that our conventional sensors can't detect. We'd need specialized equipment and a very different search methodology. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment, studying both of their faces. Finally, she activated a holographic display showing a small, sleek vessel. This is the research ship Wanderer, officially. It's being deployed on a routine deep space cartography mission. Unofficially, it's equipped with some of the most advanced sensor arrays the Alliance has ever developed. Experimental technology designed to detect phenomena that exist outside our normal understanding of physics. Zara's heart began to race. You're authorizing an investigation? I'm authorizing a very careful, very discreet survey mission to the coordinates Dr. Vasquez provided. You'll have a crew of 6, including yourselves, and exactly 30 days to either prove or disprove the existence of these gardens. Hayes's expression grew stern. But understand this, if you find nothing, this entire matter gets classified and forgotten. The Alliance can't afford to chase fantasies, no matter how compelling they might seem. The Wanderer departed Beacon Station 7 3 days later, carrying a crew that represented some of the Alliance's best scientific minds. Besides Zara and Kai, the team included navigation specialist Lieutenant Ben Torres, quantum physicist Dr. Rachel Kim, xenobiology expert Dr. Samuel Wright, and engineering officer Chief Petty Officer Mike Rodriguez. As they traveled deeper into uncharted space, Zara found herself spending increasing amounts of time with Kai in the ship's small laboratory. Their work decoding Dr. Vasquez's transmission had evolved into something more complex, an attempt to understand not just what she had seen, but how such visions might manifest in physical reality. The interesting thing, Kai explained during their second week in transit, is that every mystical tradition in human history describes something similar. Gardens of paradise, hidden realms, places where the normal rules don't apply. What if they weren't describing afterlife destinations or metaphysical concepts? What if they were trying to explain encounters with something real but incomprehensible? Zara looked up from the sensor modifications she was helping Dr. Kim develop. You think Dr. Vasquez stumbled onto some kind of universal archetype, something that actually exists, I think, Kai said slowly, moving closer to examine her work. That consciousness might be more fundamental to the universe than we've assumed. And sometimes when people are dying, when all their normal barriers are breaking down, they might perceive things that are hidden from healthy minds. Their eyes met across the lab bench, and Zara felt something shift between them. What had begun as professional collaboration was becoming something deeper, a connection forged through shared wonder and the kind of intellectual intimacy that only came from exploring the impossible together. Kai, she began, but was interrupted by Lieutenant Torres's voice over the comm system. All hands to the bridge. We're approaching the target coordinates. The bridge of the Wanderer fell silent as they reached the location Dr. Vasquez had specified. The main view screen showed exactly what they'd expected: empty space, unmarked by stars or planets. The sensor displays registered nothing unusual. No energy signatures, no gravitational anomalies, no signs that anything had ever existed in this remote corner of the galaxy. Beginning enhanced scans, Dr. Kim announced, activating the experimental sensor ray. For several minutes, nothing changed. Then, gradually, patterns began to appear on the quantum resonance detectors, faint at first, then growing stronger. I'm reading massive spatial distortions, Dr. Kim reported, her voice tight with excitement. But they're not gravitational. It's like space itself is folded here, creating dimensions we can't normally perceive. Torres worked his controls, adjusting their position according to subtle navigational cues that shouldn't have been possible to detect. There's something here. I can feel it pulling at the ship, but not physically. It's like it's calling to us. Kai moved to stand beside Zara at the sensor station, his hand briefly touching hers. The transmission, he whispered. Dr. Vasquez said belief was necessary. Maybe the gardens only reveal themselves to those who truly expect to find them. As if responding to his words, the view screen suddenly blazed with impossible light. Before them, emerging from what had appeared to be empty void, stretched a vista that defied every law of physics they knew. Worlds hung connected by streams of pure energy, their surfaces covered with vegetation that glowed with inner luminescence. Gardens that stretched across entire continents, tended by figures that moved like living starlight through groves of silver trees. And standing at the center of it all, as if waiting for their rival, was a being of such beauty and ancient wisdom that tears sprang to Zara's eyes unbidden. "Hello," the figure said, its voice somehow reaching them across the vacuum of space with perfect clarity. "I am Echo, and I have been waiting so very long for someone to find us again." Zara felt Kai's hand tighten around hers as they stared at the impossible realm spread before them. Dr. Vasquez had been right about everything. The gardens were real, and they were more beautiful than any dying woman's fevered dreams could have imagined. But as Echo's ancient gaze fixed upon them, Zara realized their real journey was just beginning. The first step into the garden realm felt like diving into a dream made manifest. Despite every law of physics screaming that it should be impossible, the Wanderer's crew found themselves breathing sweet, oxygen-rich air the moment they crossed the threshold between normal space and the interconnected worlds before them. Zara's boots touched ground that felt solid beneath her feet, though the surface seemed to be composed of crystallized starlight that pulsed gently with each step. Beside her, Kai stood transfixed, his scientific mind clearly struggling to process what his senses were reporting. The rest of the crew spread out in a loose formation behind them, their instruments registering readings that defied interpretation. "Welcome to the sanctuary," Echo said, approaching them with movements that seemed to flow like liquid music. Up close, the being's appearance was even more extraordinary, humanoid in basic structure, but composed of what appeared to be condensed starlight, with features that shifted subtly in the cosmic breeze, neither male nor female, but somehow encompassing both and transcending either. "It has been 3,000 of your years since anyone found their way here." Lieutenant Torres, ever practical, was the first to find his voice. "How is this possible? We're in open space, but we can breathe, we can walk. The gravity feels normal." Echo's expression, if the play of light across their features could be called an expression, suggested gentle amusement. "Your scientists seek to understand everything through measurement and equation, but some realities exist beyond the reach of mathematics. This realm operates on different principles, older principles, where consciousness and intent shape physical law." Dr. Kim was frantically scanning the environment with her instruments, muttering under her breath about impossible energy readings and spatial distortions that somehow maintained perfect stability. The quantum resonance patterns are unlike anything. In our databases, it's as if the very structure of spacetime has been rewritten. Not rewritten, Echo corrected softly, remembered. This is how reality functioned before your universe forgot how to dream. Kai stepped forward, his linguistic training allowing him to parse the deeper meaning in Echo's words. You're saying, this place exists in a state where consciousness directly influences physical reality. Very good. Echo's approval was evident in the warmer glow that suffused their form. Your species calls it impossible, but impossibility is merely the word the young use for possibilities they haven't yet imagined. As they walked deeper into the garden, Zara found herself overwhelmed by the sheer beauty surrounding them. The silver trees Dr. Vasquez had described were even more magnificent in person, towering constructs that seemed to grow from pure harmony, their leaves chiming softly in melodies that touched something deep in her soul. Between them, streams of liquid light flowed upward, defying gravity to nourish floating islands that drifted overhead like benevolent clouds. How many worlds are connected here? She asked, watching as distant realms shifted in and out of view, through what appeared to be gaps in the very fabric of space. 47 at present, Echo replied, guiding them toward a grove where the trees formed a natural amphitheater, each one a refuge for a species that faced extinction. When all hope seemed lost, when their worlds burned or their stars died, a few always managed to find their way here. Dr. Wright, the xenobiology specialist, was studying the plant life with barely contained excitement. These species, they're from completely different evolutionary backgrounds. Some of these genetic structures shouldn't be able to exist in the same environment. Yet they not only coexist but thrive, Echo observed. When beings abandon the illusion of separation, when they embrace connection over competition, the impossible becomes inevitable. They reached the center of the grove, where a clearing revealed a pool that reflected not the strange sky above, but something far more profound, images of countless worlds, some thriving, others dying, all connected by threads of light that pulsed with the rhythm of universal heartbeat. This is the heart pool, Echo explained. From here, we can observe every inhabited world in the galaxy. We watch, we wait, and when a species reaches the moment of ultimate crisis, when they must choose between transcendence and destruction, we send dreams to guide the worthy ones home. Zara felt her breath catch. Dr. Vasquez, you sent her the dreams? Elena was one of the most open hearts your species has produced in centuries. As her body failed, her consciousness expanded, allowing her to perceive what others cannot. She saw this place, and more importantly, she believed in it enough to share the vision. Kai moved to stand beside Zara at the pool's edge, and she felt the warmth of his presence like an anchor in the overwhelming wonders surrounding them. The coordinates she transmitted, they weren't just spatial positions, were they? Coordinates of consciousness, Echo confirmed. Navigation points for minds willing to journey beyond the mapped territories of belief. Your Dr. Vasquez became a bridge, and now others may follow. Over the following days, though time seemed to flow differently in the garden realm, the crew of the Wanderer explored the impossible sanctuary. They met beings from dozens of extinct civilizations, each group maintaining their own corner of paradise while contributing to the greater harmony of the whole. Zara found herself particularly drawn to a group of crystalline entities who communicated through patterns of refracted light. Their civilization had died when their star went nova, but they'd managed to preserve their consciousness in resonant crystals that now grew like living gemstones throughout one of the garden worlds. They teach that love is the fundamental force of creation, Kai explained after spending hours in communion with the crystal beings. He'd proven remarkably adept at learning their light language, his linguistic gifts adapting to forms of communication that transcended sound entirely. Not romantic love specifically, but the principle of connection that underlies all existence. They were sitting together on a hillside overlooking the streams of light that connected the various worlds, watching as Echo tended to a grove of trees that seemed to be growing from pure starlight. The beauty of the place was almost overwhelming, but it was the growing connection between them that made Zara's heart race. Kai, she said softly, what happens when we have to leave, when we go back to report to Admiral Hayes? He was quiet for a long moment, his fingers intertwining with hers. I don't know. How do you explain this to people who haven't experienced it? How do you make them understand that we've found something that challenges everything humanity thinks? It knows about the universe. And how do you go back to a normal life after seeing paradise? Zara added, leaning against his shoulder. The question hung between them, heavy with implications. Their mission had a time limit, and the Alliance expected answers. But the thought of leaving the Garden Realm, of abandoning this place of infinite wonder and possibility, felt like agreeing to voluntary exile from everything that mattered. Echo approached them as the strange twilight of the Garden Realm settled over the landscape. You're troubled, the ancient being observed, settling gracefully beside them in a motion that seemed to bend space around their luminous form. We have to return, Zara explained. Our people are waiting for our report. But how do we make them understand what we've found here? More importantly, Kai added, what happens to this place if humanity decides it wants to claim it? Our species doesn't have the best track record when it comes to preserving things we don't understand. Echo's expression grew thoughtful, their starlight features shifting through patterns that suggested deep consideration. Your concerns are not unfounded. Many species have faced this choice whether to share the secret of the gardens or keep it hidden. Each must decide for themselves. What would you advise? Zara asked. I would advise you to trust your hearts, Echo replied simply. The gardens exist for those who need them most. They cannot be conquered or claimed by force, only discovered by those who approach with genuine need and open minds. But the knowledge of their existence, that can be both blessing and burden. As if summoned by their conversation, Lieutenant Torres's voice crackled through their comm units. Zara, Kai, you need to get back to the ship. We're receiving priority transmissions from Admiral Hayes. She wants a preliminary report on our findings. Zara and Kai exchanged glances, both understanding that the moment of decision was approaching faster than they'd hoped. The Garden Realm had shown them wonders beyond imagination and fostered a connection between them that felt deeper than anything either had experienced before. But the universe beyond this sanctuary was still waiting, with all its demands and complications. We should go, Kai said finally, though his reluctance was evident in every word. As they made their way back toward the Wanderer, Echo accompanied them, their presence a comforting constant in the growing uncertainty. Remember, the ancient guardian said as they reached the ship, the gardens exist wherever consciousness opens to possibility. Distance is irrelevant when hearts remain connected. Zara felt the truth of those words resonate in her chest as she looked back at the impossible realm they were preparing to leave. Whatever challenges awaited them, whatever decisions they would have to make, the gardens had given them something precious, the knowledge that love and wonder could triumph of. The return journey to Alliance space felt like awakening from a beautiful dream into harsh fluorescent reality. As the Wanderer crossed back through the dimensional threshold, the Garden Realm faded from their sensors until only empty space remained on the view screen, as if the impossible sanctuary had never existed at all. But the crew carried proof of their experience in the form of detailed recordings, biological samples that defied classification, and technology freely given by the crystalline beings that represented advances beyond humanity's current understanding. Most importantly, they carried the memory of what they'd witnessed, a functioning utopia where extinct civilizations thrived in harmony. Admiral Hayes was waiting aboard Beacon Station 7 when they returned, her expression unreadable as she reviewed their preliminary reports. The formal debriefing took place in the station's most secure conference room, with Zara and Kai presenting their findings to a panel that included Hayes, Captain Stone, and several high-ranking officials who'd arrived from Earth specifically for this meeting. Let me ensure I understand correctly, said Minister Helena Cross, Jenna's mother and one of the Alliance's most influential politicians. Her silver hair was pulled back severely, and her pale blue eyes missed nothing as she studied the holographic displays showing their sensor data. You're claiming to have discovered a pocket dimension containing multiple inhabitable worlds, maintained by an entity of unknown origin, serving as a refuge for supposedly extinct alien species? That's correct, Zara replied, keeping her voice steady despite the skepticism radiating from half the panel. The garden realm exists in a state where consciousness directly influences physical reality. It's not just a place, it's a living sanctuary that responds to need and intention. Minister Cross exchanged glances with Admiral Hayes, and this entity Echo simply allowed you to explore freely, made no demands, posed no threats. Kai leaned forward, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. Echo has been maintaining the sanctuary for millennia. They're not interested in conquest or expansion, only in preserving life. That would otherwise be lost. How convenient, muttered General Bradley, the Alliance's chief military strategist, an all-powerful being with no territorial ambitions. Forgive me if I find that difficult to believe. Dr. Kim activated another holographic display, showing the technological samples they'd brought back. The evidence is undeniable. These devices operate on principles we're only beginning to understand. The energy efficiency alone represents advances that could revolutionize our entire civilization. Minister Cross studied the rotating hologram of a crystalline power cell that produced limitless energy through harmonic resonance, and they simply gave this to you, no payment required, no treaties demanded. They gave it freely, Zera confirmed. In the garden realm, scarcity is an illusion. When beings abandon competitive thinking and embrace cooperation, abundance becomes natural. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Zera could see the wheels turning in Minister Cross's mind, the political possibilities, the technological advantages, the strategic benefits of controlling access to such resources. We need to establish formal diplomatic contact, Minister Cross announced. A full expedition with appropriate military escort to ensure proper security protocols. If this realm truly contains the resources you describe, humanity has a right to beneficial access. With respect, Minister, Kai interjected, his voice tight with controlled emotion. The garden realm isn't a resource to be exploited, it's a sanctuary. The beings there have already suffered the loss of their home worlds. They don't need humanity. Arriving with warships and territorial claims, Admiral Hayes raised a hand to forestall the sharp retort forming on Minister Cross's lips. What exactly are you suggesting, Specialist Volkov? Kai glanced at Zera, drawing strength from her steady gaze. I'm suggesting that humanity approach the gardens with humility rather than hunger, that we prove ourselves worthy of sanctuary rather than demanding access by right of discovery. Worthy, General Bradley's voice dripped with disdain. We're talking about potentially the greatest discovery in human history, and you want us to approach it as supplicants. I want us to approach it as beings worthy of the trust Echo placed in us, Zera said firmly. The garden realm reveals itself only to those who truly need it. If we arrive with conquest in our hearts, we'll find nothing but empty space. The debate continued for hours, with the panel split between those who saw the gardens as humanity's greatest opportunity and those who viewed them as a potential threat requiring careful management. Through it all, Zera felt the weight of impossible choices pressing down on her shoulders. That evening, she found herself walking through the station's observation deck with Kai, watching the stars wheel slowly past the transparent aluminum windows. The silence between them was heavy with unspoken concerns. They're going to send a military expedition, Kai said finally. Cross is already drafting the orders. 3 heavy cruisers and a diplomatic corps designed to establish beneficial relationships with the garden realm's inhabitants. Zera closed her eyes, remembering Echo's serene face and the trust they'd placed in humanity's representatives. The crystalline beings survived the death of their star by learning to exist in harmony with forces beyond their control. They'll sense military intentions long before any ships reach the sanctuary. And then what? The gardens disappear again, hiding from another species that proved unworthy of their trust. Or worse, Zera whispered. What if Echo decides humanity itself poses a threat to the other refugees? What if they conclude that our species is too dangerous to be allowed near the sanctuary? Kai moved closer, his hand finding hers in the dim starlight. There might be another way. She turned to face him, seeing determination mixed with something deeper in his expression. What are you thinking? The gardens exist for those who need them most, he said slowly. Echo told us that consciousness creates the pathways, that distance becomes irrelevant when hearts remain connected. What if we could establish contact without revealing the location? What if we became permanent ambassadors, living bridges between the realm and humanity? The implications of his suggestion hit her like a physical blow. You're talking about staying there permanently. I'm talking about protecting something precious from those who would destroy it through misunderstanding. His voice grew urgent. Zara, in the 3 weeks we spent there, I felt more connected to the universe than in all my previous years combined. That place changed me, changed us. How can we stand by and watch it be turned into another resource to be exploited? Before she could respond, Jenna Cross approached from the corridor entrance, her expression troubled. I've been looking everywhere for you too. My mother's called an emergency session with the High Command. They've fast-tracked the military expedition. Launch is scheduled for next week. Zara felt her heart sink. So soon? The politicians are excited about the technological applications, Jenna explained grimly. And the military sees strategic advantages in controlling access to what they're calling the garden weapon. They think Echo's power over dimensional space could be weaponized. Kai's face went pale. They want to turn the sanctuary into a military asset. Some do, Jenna confirmed. Others just want to study it, learn from it. But the end result is the same, a massive alliance presence that will completely change the nature of the place. The three of them stood in silence, watching the stars and contemplating the impossible situation. Somewhere out there, beyond the range of their sensors, the garden realm continued its ancient purpose of preserving life and fostering connection. Echo and the refugees they protected had no idea that their sanctuary was about to become the center of a political and military storm. There has to be something we can do, Zara said finally. Some way to protect them. Kai squeezed her hand gently. There is. But it means making a choice that will change our lives forever. As if reading her thoughts, Jenna looked between them with growing understanding. You're thinking of going back, of warning them. More than that, Kai replied. We're thinking of staying, of becoming the bridge between worlds instead of the agents of their destruction. Zara felt the truth of his words resonate in her chest. The garden realm had given them a glimpse of what the universe could be, when love and cooperation replaced fear and competition. But it had also shown them what they could become together, partners in something greater than themselves. If we do this, she said slowly, there's no coming back. We'd be abandoning our careers, our lives, everything we've built here, to build something better. Kai countered, to protect something that could teach humanity to transcend its limitations. Given time, Jenna watched them both with eyes that held understanding and sadness in equal measure. When do you leave? The question hung in the air between them, heavy with finality. But as Zara looked into Kai's eyes and saw her own determination reflected there, she knew they'd already made their choice. The garden realm had claimed their hearts, and some connections were too precious to abandon for the sake of duty or convenience. Tomorrow, she whispered, before the military expedition launches, before it's too late. The stars outside seemed to pulse with approval, as if the universe itself